I distinctly remember, I believe it was Summer Jam 2022. I was playing my first stream match on stage. I was fighting Victim of Ritual at the time, Victimo now, and I did the Noctis low spear, and everybody says it's reactable. I hit it online all the time. I throw the low spear out, it gets blocked, and someone in the crowd goes, "This ain't online anymore." And I was shook. It's crazy too in retrospect because it was a read. It was not a reaction. He was already ducking and I threw it. Tomato, tomato. Either way, the crowd spoke, and then I got nervous, and I got launched, and I was in a combo. So that kind of moment started another arc where I think mastering playing well offline was a big challenge. But I also think I got away with a bit more support because I had this very fake solid style. So because I loved Korean backdashing, and I loved watching JDCR whiff punch and stuff like that, I would go into these online tournaments, and I would just be moving. There was no, like, I think when people thought of Noctis, they thought of him swinging the sword all the time, doing all the cheap moves. I kind of off the back of, like, the main man's content at the time. He picked Noctis and just did the big sword move and the big spear. And that was kind of the public perception. So when I showed up in these tournaments and I'm just moving, and I'm not really doing much because I have a sword that can control the screen, but it looks really cool, So to the untrained eye, it's like, hey, he's kind of doing the Tekken thing. He's just moving and whiff punishing and counter hitting. This is kind of solid. So it was definitely a mixed reception, and I kind of fed on that too, because I was like, yeah, I am solid. I'm just moving around. Like, this is really cool Tekken. But then there were definitely like people who had been offline a lot and had kind of been through that rigorous environment compared to me playing at my desk at home. And yeah, there was definitely some initial friction there too. But getting the offline wins was really validating. There was a time where I got an offline win and people in the chat were like, "Told you he'd be good. We saw how we played online. It's the same solid stuff." So yeah. It was initially a bit of both, but definitely I think I got carried by deciding that I wanted to move a lot, and it happens to look really good, and people kind of latched onto that.
You were almost influenced to play the right way.
Yeah.
It's interesting hearing your discussion, because I do feel like there's a lot of pressure for players, especially those who see the prestige of being a competitive fighting game player. They want to be that guy, or they want to beat those guys. It does create sort of this feedback loop of molding what you do to be playing the correct way, because there is stigmas around how you win. Like, people absolutely will create narratives or have bias around what characters you use, what mechanics you favor, and your overall general playstyle, regardless of the actual accolades behind it. And that persists to this day. Also, like, how you look, your personality. I don't like your haircut. You know what I mean? Like, these biases are very real. Like, they exist. We see it in the FGC today. And I've definitely felt that pressure myself to play the right way. Even when I was playing, when I first on the come up, right? Like, I started getting wins against my training partners, or like the people who my senpai, right? The person who taught me Street Fighter.
Right.
But when I beat them, it was the wrong way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I was doing the dumb thing. I was playing random, and they're a little like, "Oh man, that's how you're gonna like a little bit of roll of the eyes and a little salty about it." And I'm like, "Well, I won. What is it? What's the problem?" And I think generally it's a push towards a more consistent direction. But have you ever thought about that? Like, do you ever feel like maybe because there was a tiny part of you playing for the approval of others, that it maybe hindered your potential growth as a player?
That is a fantastic question, and that is an ongoing thing. So I think the combination of my upbringing and the way I value attention and things like that, my head is deeply cemented in high expected value play, very consistent play, long set, data driven, in the sense that you're watching your opponent, seeing their timing, seeing their patterns, and using your defense to make it as hard for them as possible to win, while also still playing the offensive parts of the game in an unpredictable way. That idealistic view, like playing like Ni, playing like Arslan, that is way ingrained in kind of my mental view of the game. So when it comes to teaching, when it comes to discussing the game, I lean towards it that way. But in my heart, I am the slimiest thief that you could ever. I'm a Teemo player. I'm a Teemo player disguised as a solid player. And I think that is what makes me hard to fight, even way back in Tekken 7, is that I put on the costume of a hyper solid player, and sometimes I would feel like doing something that made no sense. And for the people prepared to fight a hyper solid player, it made no sense. So it would hit them. And I think even going into Tekken 8, that's something I've been kind of unwinding, especially because Tekken 8 is way less of a by the book Tekken than I think Tekken 7 was. Tekken 7 was so by the book that even if you had a read, it would be statistically better sometimes to just do the solid thing and save your HP and try to make a play later. Play the clock if you can. Right. Tekken 8 is, there's not a clear textbook. Sometimes you have to really dive headfirst into the mix and be willing to see who dies and who lives, you know? And in those environments, I can't rely on what my brain has decided is the solid play or what is consistent. I have to play to my heart. And if I think it's going to hit this dude, I have to do it. I can't be afraid. So, yeah, especially going into season 2, I've been training a lot more, and like it's been hard to decide where to do content because of all the, you know, the drama and the controversy. So I just focused on my play a bit, and we've been figuring out like, yeah, there is a huge element of not full sending it on what you think is approvable play or what is, you know, textbook clean play. There's a human element that you have to embrace. And it's to me, it's more fun that way too. It's like playing in a way that's really authentic to me has allowed me to have more fun with the game rather than kind of doing something, getting this dopamine hit and being like, was that the right thing to do? Is that clean play? I think there's room for analysis and criticism, but also it's a game, and expressing yourself through the game is kind of what makes fighting games so cool, right?
Very true. Okay. It's interesting to see you work through that to embrace that side, because that's something I definitely struggle with as well, and I think that's one of my struggles with Street Fighter 6 as well. I think Street Fighter 5 was a game you could play very much by the book, and Street Fighter 6, I think that exists, of course, at every level, but it's very much you better make the read and do it to the opponent, and consequences be damned, because there's consequences to inaction. And I think a lot of fighting games are in that direction these days. And I was wondering about that with your journey, because I definitely relate to sort of the structure you've gone through and your competitive development, but also like how to let loose. Like that's something I've been exploring as well. Like how to just let it go and be like, screw it, I'm gonna do the random DI. I'm gonna go for the random whatever. See what happens. Yeah.
I think if I could sum it up, it's like in my brain, I want to play like Punk. Like it looks so clean and so solid. But in my heart, I'll see a Japanese Kami player do something minus into the forward heavy kick, and it back swings and hits them. I'm like, yeah. And so like my head and my heart are at odds. But I think that playing what's true to my heart and still leveraging the knowledge and the kind of analysis that I do like to do for real is there's a sweet spot somewhere in the middle there.
I'm glad you brought up the Punk example, because I always fall into the trap of watching Punk play the latest DLC character, and I'm like, oh yeah, you just whiff punish with this one button and anti-air everything and you win, and that's how you should play. And then when I go for it, I'm like, well, it turns out I'm not a savant level footsie god, and maybe I should implement the grime and use the other tools and mechanics and actually try to scum out wins. And then suddenly my win rate skyrockets, and I'm like, I guess, you know, ideally I feel like I would just whip punish everybody and anti-air and play footsies perfectly and never take any risk and just win all the time, right? But maybe it's not the best approach for us mortal humans, right? So that's something I've definitely been coming a lot more to terms with.
Even in Tekken now, when I coach people, I used to be like, learn your punishes, learn your throw breaks, do this. And I do stand by that if you're the type of person trying to go into tournaments, or like that's your goal, straight competition. But if somebody's just picking up Tekken, I'm like, here's your armor move, here's your rage art, and here's a big low. Run free, my child, and have fun. Like, you know, I think that when I was teaching initially, I was leaning into that analysis side, but after a couple years of competing and kind of unraveling that head-heart distinction, I'm kind of leaning more towards like, look, you're supposed to have fun with this. If you like being clean, aspire to this. But if you're here to play the game, hit buttons, get some wins, there's a lot of grime in this game, and it can be fun to use, so go for it.
Hopefully you enjoyed that trash talk or extra trashy clip. If you want to see the full episode that clip came from, go ahead and click the link right over here. Otherwise, YouTube thinks you might enjoy this video right here. And for the trashiest amongst you, we get the merch right over there.